So, bro, right? Let's talk, right? So it's not that I hate God or hate the being that created reality. I hate the name God. I hate God. Like I don't know where that come from. What's the source of that word? Right? The word God, right? The word God is a word that's overrated and also underrated at the same time. Overrated and underrated at the same time, right? And is a word that people just use for whatever agenda they want to use it for, right? The word God, right? So I hear the word God. So it's not that I hear the creator, right? I know it has something that creates not only earth, but the universe, right? And all the universes, right? So it has something that creates all the universes. It has something that creates me and you, right? As beyond our appearance and all of that, right? So it have something that is a creative force, sustaining force, dissolving force, right? It have that for sure, obviously, right? But the word God now is why I hate. So I don't really hate the God for what the God is, as in the being, right? Or the thing, or the nothingness, or the something, right? I don't really hate that. I hate the name God and what people attach to that, right? So it's not that I hate God, right? But I hate the assumptions that people attach to the name God, right? Because the word God is any human being could use the word God to say, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this against these people, we're gonna do this against these people. And all in the name of that thing called God. That's why I hate that term God, right? I hate the term, right? So and I never really like think deep about it, like real deep about it. But in the end, that is what it is, right? And that is why in Islam, I think that the more attached to the word Allah, they don't say God, right? They don't use the word God at all, right? They don't use the word God at all, right? In Islam, they don't use the word God at all, right? They will say Allah, or they will say all the other names of God or whatnot, right? So in Vedic, they'll say the omnipresent one, omnipotent one, omniscient being, whoever, right? So this still, or they'll use like in Hinduism normal, they use like a character, right, to represent that. But at the end of the day, attributes, right? But it's the God, right? I already say God, right? God, right? Was God, right? Because I could say God anything, right? I could say God anything, right? So is a name, is that name God? It represents some hatred thing, right? Because it is we know it to represent what the dominant religion. And dominant religion is hatred and evil, right? The dominant religion that runs the earth is hatred and evil, right? So that term God, right? The name God is like when I hear that term now, it is really it sparks some kind of resentment in me, right? The term God, right? Or anything at all. In fact, I just feel like that when I hear any name at all, right, associated with that being, right? Because the being is really nothing, right? Like all of these things I always be talking about is names, is language, right? So you say God, you say Allah, Allah is Arabic. I say God at English, or coming from wherever it's stemmed from, I don't really know. But it's a language at the end of the day, right? So wherever we attach to that being is a language, and that being is not a language at the end of the day. Right? The being is not a language, right? So by whatever name you choose to call it God, right, is in fact. So we go now deeper now. So coming away from idols, so we move away from idols, right? We even move away from the black box in Mecca, right, where people just go to Hajj, right? So coming along deeper now, right? Allah, right? God, right? Was Allah, was God, is a language, right? So then what it is, right? When you boil down to it now, God is really nothing, right? That would say Shiva is shape. Shiva is nothing. But when you say Shiva, is think about the idol, is think about the name, is think about the idol, right? But if you remove the idol aspect, right, is nothing, right? God is nothing, right? Now that's why it is like God is a neutral entity, right? That exists, some say don't, right? But at the end of the day, I think when you're leaving Earth, you're also leaving God, right? When you're dying, right? That is why I come to realize that I don't know if it matters where you really say when you die, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're dying, you're leaving God too. Because when you think about God, always also everybody is associated God with a religion, right? God associated with a religion. Allah associated with Islam, right? God associated with Christianity, right? Ram, Krishna, whoever associated with Hinduism, right? Om associated with Vedic thing, right? So when you're leaving Earth, right, you're also leaving language, right? So when they say La ilaha illallah, whoever you choose to say Hare Krishna, whatever, right, you're also leaving Sanskrit and you're leaving Arabic, right? You choose to say God, right? You live in English. You choose to say God exists, you live in English, right? So dying now is about leaving what? You live in religion and then you live in language too, right? So this all making it easier, right, for people to detach from these things, right? When you leave on earth, right, and you become nothingness with God. That's what a union is, right? You know what union with God is? Or union is destined, right? Our union is destined, meaning that we become nothing together, right? We become nothingness together. We become dust and then nothingness. Return to ethers, right? Not even the stars no more, right? We return to ether, space, right? That's what that is. That's what God is, right? To me, my understanding now God is death. That's what my understanding of God is. My understanding of God is not no higher being, no spiritual higher being, and I created everything on us. My how I know God and understand God to be is God is death, right? God is nothing, right? God is nothing. Like your death is nothing, right? You're boiling to nothing at the end, right? God boiled down to Him, it, nothing, she, he, shim, it, thus, right? God boiled it down to nothing, right? That is what God boiled it down to He, to that, this, right? So you and God boiled down each other to the same thing, nothing. And because you live in two and you live in God and you live in earth and you live in the universe. You live in and I live in, right? So we return into nothingness, right? Together, right? So that's what it is, right? So I don't know. I think people just really had to go through something, right? To wake up, right? People just had to really go through something to wake up, and it's had to go through dying multiple times to really wake up, right? Because you realize that this thing called God or even Allah or anything, right? Whoever you call it, right? Krishna, Ram, right? Whoever it is you call it, right? Seth, right? Horus, right? Whoever it is you call it, right? It has been nothing in the end, right? It has literally been nothing in the end, right? So that is my understanding of this God thing, right? Because I don't really, it's not like, it's not that I don't respect it, is that I respect death, right? That is why I respect. I respect the thing called death because the thing called death, right, is not a discriminator, right? I respect the thing called death. DEATH, right? Not DABT, right? DEATH, right? I could respect death, right? Because death is call, and when death calls, everybody had to go, right? So I could respect death, right? But sometimes I feel like I can't respect that word is called God, right? Because that God does represent something, and humans does twist and turn that God meaning, right, to suit their own fashion, design, agenda, human will, right? And I doesn't really like that, right? Same thing like what Benedictinos be talking about, right? It's be twisted. The word is difficult, right? It's difficult to really trust that term God and what it represents, right? So that's how I see it, that I choose to really respect death, right? Because death is what is called at the end of the day. And when death call you, nothing can hold you back, right? Even if the religious text, right? So the Quran has said that Allah could delay time and whatever, right? But at the end of the day, is your doing that is delay that, right? If it is that, if it is that you doing wrong and you make the decision to change, right? So the universe, God, creator, whatever, bring circumstances around, right? That you could engage in, right? So like if you was having sex and it was wrong or with wrong people, and then God bring you back around with people, and you had a choice. You was like, hey, but I had a choice to do this again. I had a choice to repeat this again, but you didn't do it though. I didn't do it though. So I, in effect, right, prolong that period of time or delay my death by virtue of, hey, I could change my actions, right? So that's how I really see it, right? Because if it's otherwise, the reality that we live in don't make sense. And reality must make sense. I'm not accepting the fact that, oh, we live in a simulation or a video game. I not living in that. I trust me, right? You see that? I never accepted that reality. You see this reality that people say, oh, we live in a simulation, right? And this is a video game, and we live in a simulation, a technological simulation, right? Where there's some tech people controlling everything and controlling you. I know that I could beat that system, right? We're not in no simulation. Once you accept that you living in a simulation, imagine you putting your life at the hands of something else that running. Nah, not me, right? You putting your life, right, in the hands of something, right, technological that running you, right? You as a human being have way more intelligence and have way more thinking capacity than that, right? People will say, oh, you living in a video game, right? Or you living in a simulation. I'll never accept that reality. I would never respect. I don't have respect for that theory, right? I have zero respect for that theory, right? I'm saying this is a simulation because you know what I mean. That mean anything like we living in like a Final Destination movie, right? And like anything, like any random kind of thing can happen to anybody, and oh, we living in a movie or living in a simulation, right? That way of thinking is shit, right? Shit is shit, right? That's shit, right? So it really it disrespect on your intelligence, right? It disrespects your intelligence as a human being. We live in a simulation, right? We live in a simulation or a video game. That way of thinking disrespects your intelligence as a human being, right? So anybody trying to chain up on your head with that kind of talk, you know that, hey, that person manipulating you. Hey, you know that person manipulating you, right? That person manipulating you. That person manipulating you, right? And Amy easily so manipulated, right? We do not live in a simulation. We live in a real reality with real evil, right? And the capacity for people to be evil and people actually being evil, right? And it also has some good people, few and far in between, right? Few and far in between, right? So that's what this is, right? So the idea is this God concept, right? I don't have a problem with the creator being, creator, sustainer, dissolver. I have a problem with the word, language, God, and how people use the language, God, right, to do what they will, right, to that, right? Because I know that if it have a God, right, then that God bless me with intelligence, right? Intelligence. And I know that I had the potential to become in union with our God, meaning in oneness with our God. I know I had the potential to become in a union with our God. And I'm not talking about nothing with sex, nothing like that. Because I know a lot of people just want to sexualize this religious text and that text and sexualize your experience and choose you for LUST and that kind of thing. I talking about a real spiritual oneness and union, right? With whatever this nothingness is, right? And that is why I aim to attain, right? So that I can leave the earth in peace, right? So the attainment of nothingness with God, right? Because God is nothing, right? And when you die and you become nothing too, right? And that union is nothingness, right? And that is what I strive to really attain, right? Nothingness, right? And we're in June 2026 right now, right? Time is going, right? So this is what I am helping people, right? To strive to become in union with God, which is to understand God as a nothing, right? God as a nothing. And this is not saying that I remember I make a video about illusion. The world is an illusion at the end of the day, but there's a separate topic, right? This is a existential issue, right? A question of our existence and thing, and that's a different issue. So we need to learn how to juggle these things, right? So that we don't get caught up in either realm, right? So Daisy is difficult functioning in two realms, right? That was written in the book, right? Serenity, right? It's difficult functioning in two realms, right? Because sometimes you get too caught up, right? You get too caught up in that realm. You enjoy, because sometimes you might tend to enjoy that nothingness with God, right? So much that I don't even want to come back on earth or come back into the, and that's where the illusion, and that's what I was talking about the Advaita philosophy, Hinduism, right? Or even Raj Yoga, right? That's what had happened to me in the past. Like I joined Raj Yoga, and for that period of time, I feel like I was just like, I didn't really care about the world no more at all. I was much younger back then, right? And I feel like I could have just float away and die, right? At that point, right? And nothing matters, right? So that was that, right? And that I believe that when certain energies, so because I was probably supposed to die at that time, leave the earth, right? Whereas certain evil entities and they kind of called me back, right? And started putting me in that lost, chosen for LUST shit, right? Over and over and over, like a repeat cycle, right? I've come back out of that, right? And I'm feeling like I could just leave again now, right? So anyhow, that's separate, right? So you want to separate that realm from the actual realm I was talking about and understanding human suffering and all of that, right? But at the end of the day, right, we become nothing and we return to nothing, right? We become nothing and we return to nothing, right? And sometimes when you're in that nothing sphere, you really doesn't want to come out of it. So at the same time, I understand that Advaita thing, right? Because sometimes when you function in that realm and you be like, oh, well, everything out there is illusionary, but I know that everything is not illusionary, right? So you need to have a balance, right? So it's not that I completely condemning that system, is that you need to understand that to have a balance and not get hooked. Like, say, like you just disappear from the world, which I need to come back out in the world too. You know, something you just disappear in the world, right? You go in an ashram or something, right? And you just stay forever, right? I just feel like that in my room these days, right? So I had to come out of that to snap back out of that, because at the end of the day, I have work to do out there. I have a few things to do, right? And it's to really balance yourself and say, hey, well, you know, it really have a real world out there, right? Same thing with the monks, China, right? India, right? All these things. It really have a world out there. I could be out there doing something, kind of integrate back yourself into society a little bit, right? I could be out there doing whatever, right? Or I could choose to be here, like just spending time with nothing. I just lose myself in nothing, right? And I sometimes wonder if we could actually will ourselves to death like that, right? So you're talking about if it's possible now, because see a video Benedictine self was talking about, right? If you could actually choose when you want to leave the earth, right? So choosing your time of leaving the earth, say like God give you or Allah give you a choice as to when you want to leave the earth rather than it being decided by Him, right? So you decide, hey, I'm ready to leave Earth now. I prepare to leave Earth now, and you just will yourself to death, right? So I just one of them things, like if you could actually will yourself out of this human body, like go to sleep, like say, hey, I ready, like God, I'm ready to die now, and then you go to sleep and never wake up, right? So that is just that, right? And I don't know. Maybe that's a possibility, but it also has steps you need to take probably to get to that point where God allow you to do that. Where God allow you to say, hey, well, I'm ready to die. But I don't know. I don't know. I just saying, I just assuming, right? That hey, maybe it has certain you have to reach a point, right, in spirituality by your actions, by your deeds, where your good deeds outweigh all your bad deeds and a culmination of all lifetimes. Right? So we getting deeper with this, right? So in a culmination of all lifetimes, right? You need to reach a point where good outweigh bad when it comes to the culmination of all lifetimes I was on earth, right? And probably, I don't know, right? Probably that might be the key, right? For you to being able to choose to say, hey, well, God, I prepare myself enough already. Maybe I could will myself out of the earth, right? So I don't know. Maybe, well, that's also diminishing the power of God too, right? When I talk like that. So at the end of the day, I don't know because that is the only thing to be respected, and I view death as God, right? That is my version of God that I know. I just relate to God in a version of death, right? That's how I just relate to God, right? So the dissolver. Now I don't like to call it the destroyer, right? But I just relate to God in a dissolution way, dispose of affairs, right? Dissolution, right? Because I know that is what it boils down to at the end, right? Leaving earth, dissolving, right? I know that is what it boils down to, right? So that is why, and I guess that is why I'm unable to create, right? That's probably why I'm unable to create because I don't relate to God in a creative, meaning bringing more life into the earth. That I mean, right? I don't relate to God in that way, so God probably take away that, right? Come to think about it, oh, that making me. I don't even know if it's that or that making me feel better, right? Probably it is that just making me feel better, right? That hey, I don't relate to God in a creative capacity, as in bringing more life into the earth. I relate to God as in death. So then why would God give me the opportunity to have a child, right? So maybe that just making me feel better about what humans did to me at the end of the day. But let me just leave it as that, right? Good. Because we all had to feel better and move on from certain things at the end.